women in the dreams of men and the men in the dreams of women. Jung says that, psychologically speaking, every man has an inner woman and every woman has an inner man. Many people find that a difficult concept to understand.
Well, we well know that we are born from genes, and that only the predominance of male or female genes make the gender of a child. And there are even androgynous creatures sometimes where even nature can't make up quite their mind what to produce, a man or a woman. And even every man has breasts and nipples on the breasts, and so to speak, a sketched feminine side, and the woman has a clitoris and a sketched masculine side, and the same is true for the psyche. Not only our body is predominantly male or female, but having the other element in it, our psyche too is predominantly male or female, but contains the other side.
And isn't it interesting how the feminine side of a man's personality in his dreams takes just as many forms as there are women in real life? Every man has a girl of his dreams, a divine image of beauty and perfection. Jung called a man's inner woman his anima, which is Latin for soul. She animates life. She can inspire a man or devour him, but whether he likes it or not, it's the male's fate to pursue his soul through life. We're constantly searching for the girl of our dreams. How is a man supposed to make sense out of this incredible number of forms that his femininity takes in his dreams?
The anima has many stages and embraces a great range of psychological facts. Jung once divided it in four: Eve, Helena, Mary, and Sophia, the wisdom of God. Eve would be the biological woman, and when she appears as an anima, she would be the biological sex, the physical attraction, motherhood, the image of the ordinary attractive female. Helena is on a higher stage. She would represent the hetaira, as the Greeks, for instance, developed a type of their form of geishas, the hetaira, cultivated women with whom one had not only a sexual adventure, but with whom one exchanged poetry and philosophical conversations, where the man had also a spiritual companion in the woman, a companionship, together with romantic sex. The next stage is the anima figure in Christianity of the Virgin Mary, which is the highest form of spirituality, but a bit one-sidedly too high up. The Virgin Mary is lacking the dark Eve side of woman, the earthy side of woman. So it is a bit a too lofty ideal. And when the church abolished the cour d'amour, they forced the knights to worship the Virgin Mary instead. And at the same time they began the witch hunting. That means the dark side, the shadow side, or the more biological and wilder, the more natural side of the anima is too much excluded from the ideal of the Virgin Mary. And therefore the fourth stage is the wisdom of God is, as Jung smilingly quoted, is a come down, because wisdom is not most virtuous spirituality. It is closer to life. It would be when a man knows how to love women and knows how to relate to women but having wisdom at the same time, the wisdom which protects him from their devouring side.
Now, where do you see the anima manifest in life?
On a primitive level, it appears in men generally as an element of romantic, unreal, mostly sexual fantasies. And You see, for instance, in puberty, when young men are very active and then suddenly they become passive and dreamy and they are not there and their performance in school goes down tremendously. And one has the feeling, where is that? Where has that young man disappeared? He's in the clutches up to the neck of daydreaming sexual fantasies. In that age, it is a normal transition. But if a man gets stuck in indulging in wishful sexual fantasies, he literally falls into the hand of a vampire. He loses his capacity of taking his own life in hand. He loses his willpower. He loses all his male efficiency. And he just daydreams all the time about women and their curves and would-be romantic adventures and so on. He lives in an unreal life. I saw once a man who was 43, still living with his mother, who had never approached a woman. I asked him, what on earth are you doing with your sex? And he gave a secretive smile and didn't confess. He just masturbated wildly every night. And then he dreamt that he was in daytime living an ordinary life, but in the nighttime he was living on a luscious island where he had wild sexual adventures with women. That was a fantasy world into which he had disappeared. In a primitive tribe, one would say such a man has been bewitched. He's bewitched.
Men have always created an idealized form of a woman. Marilyn Monroe, for example, was worshipped like a goddess. Is there an equivalent masculine figure, an idealized masculine figure?
What Marilyn Monroe has been to men, Valentino has been to women. He represents, so to speak, the ideal demon lover, where women are carried away into a romantic ecstasy and fantasize to be like the chic in more modern films, to be carried away by the demon lover into a romantic, to us two aloneness. The anima is the archetype of life, and it is when the anima is negative, it is the impulse to dream about life and to make wishful fantasies about life instead of living life. And that's why vampires and Draculas and the creatures alike always suck one's blood. The blood is the emotional, active psyche in us, the affect psyche. And such people have no activity left or no life activity left. They just sink into a passive, wishful dream. The dream tries to tell him it's a ghost which is haunting me, because actually he's haunted not by reality, he's haunted by a fantasy, which is draining his whole psychic energy.
At the end of the dream, the man's unable to escape from the vampire. It's going to suck the blood out of him. How would you interpret that?
That is really the characteristic of most negative or split-off complexes. If we reject or split off some complex of our psyche, then it begins to sap our energy secretly, behind our back, so to speak. And then it turns slowly into what is aptly represented by the image of a vampire, something which attacks us in the night and sucks all our blood.
Jung said that it's easier to be better than we are than simply what we are. In a relationship, we try so hard to please the person that we love, and we feel so hurt when they aren't exactly what we want them to be. But relationships based on need fulfillment are rooted in power, and they merely enslave. Following the way of the dream leads to a different mode of relationship, a radically different form of love. Dr. von Franz, we said earlier that a man with the mother complex fantasizes on an ideal woman who will fulfill his fantasies, gratify all his infantile desires. He wants a girl just like the girl that married dear old dad. How does that mother complex affect his personal relationships with a woman?
When a man has a mother complex, he's generally a split anima. namely, on one side, his feminine side is he worships the feminine image too much. It's a kind of Virgin Mary or feminine Holy Ghost figure, the pure, wonderful woman, so to speak. And the other is the prostitute, with whom he has sex, but whom he thoroughly despises. This kind of split in the anima between the Virgin Mary and the prostitute is typical for the mother complex. And such men then, if they have to approach a woman, they don't know how to do it, because the one they admire too much, she's too pure, you can't stretch out your hand and touch her. And the other is easily conquered, but no partner really, just something to have sex with. And such men have also in their own way trouble to relate to women because of that split anima situation.
Is promiscuity in a male connected with this split?
I think the promiscuity has to do with something else. It's simply that the conventional Christian barriers have been pulled down, and the young generation now is experimenting with sex all over the place. And you meet among those men and young women who are promiscuous all sorts of constellations, mother complex, father complex, all sorts of it's a more general factor, this experimenting nowadays, because the Christian barriers against sex have been pulled down. But then in the individual case, such a man would, for instance, date a girl who has a huge father complex and is therefore unapproachable, or a Rapunzel who is unapproachable in a tower, and always hesitate to go closer to her, or would even try to go to bed with her and not succeed. And he would still be attached to that girl and have cheap sexual affairs on the other side, which do not satisfy him. That would be the situation in such a man.